Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and I can't believe I get to sit here and say this, but we're sitting down with a man who needs no introduction. He has a portfolio a mile long, has been in every game imaginable, one that many of you care about in Fallout, in Wasteland, and the upcoming Clockwork Revolution. Such tremendous history. Now you get to add one more notch to your belt, Mr. Fargo. You get interviewed by me. So welcome, Brian. Welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
I full circle finally.
Yeah.
Here I am.
But it's awesome to have you here, man. You've been on the list, if you will, for a long while. So just appreciate you making the time here. You have as I said earlier, in all seriousness, a tremendous history and just so much to go over. But I always like to open up these conversations just checking in. Like, you're a busy guy. You've done a lot. Like, how are you? Are you playing anything right now? Like, what have you been up to?
Well, first I'd say, believe it or not, I'm having more fun than I've had in I don't know how long. Because a lot of my, if you think I look at D&D player, read 1,000 books. I mean, game player. I got in this to make games. I didn't get it in to run public companies or do Kickstarters and do all the things I did in order for us to survive. And now 98% of my effort is in the creative, just on the craftsmanship of what we're doing, because I don't have to worry about those things being part of Microsoft. So I'm having a blast. I mean, it's literally like the most fun. And the other part of it, we're doing one game. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't have to be split over here, over there. And these products are so big and so important and so nuanced. And and I love getting down in the weeds. And in fact, one of the when people start at the company, I have to explain, listen, I know I'm the studio head. When you see me in like a lot of meetings, don't panic. Okay. It doesn't mean anything because I get it. Like if I was having design meetings and Phil Spencer kept showing up, I'd be like, what does that mean? Is this good or bad? And so, so I want to make sure people, it's okay. This is why I got in it to begin with. So I'm very much doing all the things.
So you're on the ground level. You're leading from the trenches, as they would say.
Yeah. It only took me decades to get here, really, where I get to focus wholly on just the craft. So having a blast. I mean, making games is hard. I'm not going to, deny that. It's a lot of moving pieces. But I love my people. I love, as a company, kind of where we kind of elevated ourselves. And I live it 24 hours a day. I'm watching movies, I'm reading books, and all I'm thinking about is how it could apply to what
that's what you were born to do.
Playing are. I mean, it's everything I'm interested in coming together. So I'm actually having a good time.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, we're already going to go off the board here because you've said something really interesting. Is that you're like, yes, it's just one game. I see so many mixed opinions on that from fans and even devs alike about how, the one game every 5 years or however long it takes can sometimes be a little grueling. Like, it's a marathon. You got to go through the weeds and then it becomes this boom or bust feel. But it sounds like you're very optimistic about that. You like just being on that one project and giving it all your love and care. Is that like fair to say? Like, it sounds like you've been waiting for it most of your career.
With the complexity of where they're at, I just, maybe it's me because I'm in at such a level and I care about such nuance and reviewing every sentence that I can. I can't do them all, but like I'm just in it, and we're just so. I mean, we will talk about a phrase for a half an hour, like if it's right. I mean, we'll really get into it. So if you were to double that on me, I don't know. I think I don't know that I'd be having as much fun. And so that's just me. Okay. I think different people. Now, I wish they didn't take 5 years. And I think we can improve that a little bit. But what I always get a kick out of is that we'll work on these games, 4 years, 5 years. People, they'll play it over the weekend or the week. What do you got now? When's the...
Yeah.
We just finished. But that's the nature of the beast. But that's good. At least they want the next one.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Just on that note, because you said you're always reading, watching, playing. What have you been playing lately?
Well, so I spend a lot of my time playing games for like an hour or two.
Mm.
as opposed to getting to the end, because it's more for me. Again, it's all about the craftsmanship. So whether it's Claire, 33, or
Mm.
whether Atom Fall,
Mm.
I have my guilty pleasures. Like I love Limbo and Little Nightmares. Those are kind of like
Yeah.
my little ones that don't really apply to what I'm doing, but I still love them anyway.
Sure.
The Stalker. I'm really looking forward to the new vampire game, Blood Dawn. I think
Mm.
it's coming
Oh
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I spend with games. I'll watch people like you play
Mm.
it because I'm more interested in seeing the experience and seeing how people are reacting to the good and the bad
Mm.
and learning from it. Like that's more meaningful for me than to sit there and
Mm.
go, okay, I just played a game for 40 hours. Um,
Mm.
now, listen, Red Dead 2, like I played I don't know how many hours, and I still play it. I mean, that was what just beautiful
Sure.
art.
Sure.
So I'll circle back to that one. I play way too much Hearthstone Battlegrounds, just like
Mm.
what I think about all the time I put into that,
Yes.
which could have gone into something else, but
Sure.
we
We
all
always
got
have
our
that.
stuff.
Yep.
And so yeah, so I play things. Why are people loving it? Try with Silent Hill, whatever. I'll understand it.
Mm.
Play some for myself, and then I absorb a lot of film and television. I
Mm.
really focus on what are the things that are happening there, because the level of writing has gone way up in
Sure.
those mediums, and I learn a lot from that. But I listen to podcasts on better writing or master class, or
Even at
it's like,
this point in your career?
I'm sorry.
Even at this point in your career, you're still listening to, like, just how to improve, that sort
I'm
of thing?
always learning. I'm always learning.
Amazing.
One,
Wow.
you forget stuff. If anything, I could watch a game and you're like, you know what? I got to remember that that's important, because no, you can't keep it all in your head. So
Mm.
it is constant reminders, and yes, you can always get better at your craft. Like I've learned more about writing in the last couple of years, techniques that I didn't know about that are like,
Mm.
that of course,
Mm.
or things that I had a strong opinion about that maybe am I crazy? And then you start reading books or articles about it. You can go, actually, that's a
Mm.
thing. The Creativity Inc. from Pixar. I mean, I was highlighting every page and how it applied to what we did,
Mm.
and not to get sort of, it's such an uneven process. Like with Pixar and Creativity Inc., they talk about every movie we made. I mean, I'm not using the right words, starts off like crap. And
Mhm.
and so for new people in the industry, when they first start working on the game, it just feels like all hell is breaking loose. And I'm like, yeah, we had it on Fallout 1, on 2, on Torment. Pick a game, everyone. It was a disaster. And, that's what it is. And you're bringing it together. It's not a smooth process, it's very difficult. And
Mm.
so it's nice when you hear, like, Pixar has those same things. And then the way they talk
Sure.
about managing those and maximizing the creation. For my biggest thing is, how do I make a environment where creativity can thrive, where
Right.
really smart, brilliant people want to work, where I'm learning from them too. And
Right,
so
right.
it's to get that creative where you're building on that and that and this and that, and then something greater than the whole. So yeah, I love learning, and I'm learning all the time.
Well, that as I will continue to say this whole show is why I think you're one of the greatest to do it. Just the willingness to continue to learn. That makes so much sense to me. And as an aspiring writer, I got to ask, is just like before I get to my next question here, what is like a thing you've learned recently with writing that you feel you went, aha, like, oh, that's a technique I could use. Is there an example that you're able to give?
Well, yeah. So let me think about how. So okay. Well, here's one
Mm.
that the great authors,
Mhm.
they don't focus on getting you to the end of the book. They focus on getting you to turn the page.
Mm.
Okay. And so
Mm.
there are techniques. There's things called microtensions, for example. And it's a really interesting thing where, it isn't just foreshadowing, but it could be like one player sees, or reader, one character, I should say, sees something differently than the other. and you as the reader are like, they're not on the same page, that just created a microtension. Or this person
Mm.
really is in love with this person, but this person, you know what else is really going on, huh? That's not going to play off. And it could just be a phrase and once you see them, you can't unsee them. And you start to notice,
Mm.
wow, all my favorite authors are actually using this technique constantly to do that. Or the use of an inner monologue and what the value of those things are. The other thing is that that being scene driven is like plot is important, but it's the scaffolding for the scenes.
Mm.
And again, a lot of my favorite authors, like every chapter has a scene that's in my mind that's burned in. And and that's what people typically remember. So like I think about films that I watch over and over. What I mean, it could be Spirited Away. It could be Casino,
Yeah.
Godfather. A lot of the Tarantino films. Um, I will watch them over and over. And guess what? I know how they're going to end every time. But why
Mm.
do I watch them over and over? Because, you think I'm a clown? You think I'm a funny guy? That scene I must have seen 30 times. I love it.
Yeah.
And that focus on it. And there's a great interview with Matt Damon where he talks about when he was working with Jack Nicholson and how
Mm.
Jack Nicholson would improve a scene on the spot. And
Yeah.
and I won't, you can listen to it, but he's like, if you keep the camera rolling, and he really has a good mind for how he can make this scene really better or weirder or creepier or whatever. And then to the point where you're like, I will never forget that scene. Or
Mhm.
he'll do so. He talked about how like, well, a person doesn't, or like, what was it? I loved it in Snatch where he comes in and he's talking about how um, he's like, I'm going to kill you. No, he talks about how long it takes a pig to devour another human being. And so right away, you're like,
Mm.
okay, we don't need to be told what he means by this. And how does he know how long, like, how many times has he
Mm.
done this? And that's a scene. Like, that's a moment
Sure.
where you're like, holy shit, I love
Mhm.
that stuff. So the focus on the scenes, the microtensions, the turning the page, those are just like a few of the things that I'm hyper focused on. And in general for games, you I think like I can't just tell you this is like a character can't go, "Oh, if this happens then I'm going to be devastated." It it only matters what you are feeling as the reader
Mm.
or the player. And
Mm.
and so the I guess the other part of it, not to belabor this point too much,
No, please.
it is is the reader, and again I'm gonna say reader and player,
Yeah.
yeah, are they feeling anything
Mm.
emotionally? Because that's, if you think about it, that's all that matters.
Mhm.
Don't tell me oh, this player is upset. Oh gosh, if you burn down the orphanage, they're going to be upset. I have to care about the orphanage. I have to have met the kids, played with the kids, thought a kid was cute,
Mm.
and I might care. And so you have to put work in to make people care. You can't just because the characters in the story tell you it's important to them, it doesn't mean it's important to you. And
Mm.
so really, am I feeling an authentic emotion? And that's why you can watch a Reddit video or YouTube video that's 30 seconds that can make me feel more inside than an entire novel.
Mm.
Where you're like, the
Sure.
Marine that comes back and surprises the daughter at the school. And I mean, yeah, you're filling in the backstory in your mind as you're doing it, but you felt something. And so that's why oftentimes when we're, I don't know, let's say we're doing a read around the table or we're doing a design discussion, when people throw something out and everybody laughs,
Mhm.
that was an authentic emotion. You
Mm.
just got one. So I'll say,
Mm.
stop. Is there a nugget there we can use? Because
Mhm.
we got an emotion out of that. So that's what we lean on. That's what we look at
A team
all the
environment. Yeah.
time. Really, that's my focus. So those are some of the things where either I kind of felt that way, but it wasn't so solidified, or it was just new. It was like, wow, oh
Mhm.
gosh, I did brilliant. Hadn't really noticed that before. So you could really get deep on this stuff about because humans only care about the human condition, and so you have to be focused on that. And so, um, I guess one more thing, because I feel like I love talking
Please.
about this
Yeah,
stuff.
no, that's why I asked, dude. Like, let's
With,
go. I'm a sponge right now. Let's hear it.
which is like, it am I able to say what's natural in the moment? See, I find when
Mm,
it comes to immersion, let's say I'm playing a game and there's just the most natural follow up question in the world, and I can't ask it. So that is bad. If that
yeah,
happens enough times, for me, the immersion is lost. If
sure.
you allow it enough times, the immersion, all the walls float away, and then you're
Mm,
in the world. One of the films I thought that like I think it was Spider-Man 2. She got attacked by the Green Goblin, and then she meets with Peter Parker in the next scene. Doesn't mention it. Doesn't make
mm,
her radar that
yeah,
this monster attacked her to mention
yeah.
it. So I'm like, I'm waiting. I'm waiting. And so that, for me, as an example, and you say, he's, oh, well, you better break up with her and try to rationalize it. But I'm, as a human being, going, come on, this has to
Mm,
come up in a conversation. And I'm sure you've seen films or books or
yeah.
games where you're like, where's the obvious question? So we try to focus on that. And if you're going to do any kind of comedy, you better be able to be in the player's head, because that's what makes it great. When you're like,
Mhm,
that's what I was thinking, and that's when
mm,
it really lands. So if you're writing the comedy stuff. So those are a few lenses that I
beautiful.
look at things through.
Beautiful. No, that's so insightful, and just it's amazing just how much you're still trying to learn at this stage of your career. I want to ask you a bit about that because I've kept up with your body of work. I thought I did, but then I took a look at Moby Games as I usually do to prepare for these interviews, and I started scrolling through your credits page, and I think it's like 200 plus items long. Just unbelievable, and things that I didn't even know. Like you executive produced Mario Game Gallery. RoboCop versus the Terminator. Naturally, there's Fallout, like things you are really
Yeah,
well known for, but there's
yeah.
Bard's Tale, Wasteland 2. So I want to ask you, as someone who's been a part of so many games, there's so many ways I want to pick at this. But the first one is, do you feel there's anything you have been a part of that you're like, oh, that was a little overlooked, right? Like, do you ever feel that way at all about anything in your
Oh
portfolio?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I
Sure.
mean, to pick a few, and tangentially involved, but like hyper involved at one level, because we bought Shiny Entertainment, and they did a game called Sacrifice.
Mm,
I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And we were in a weird situation at that time where, like, this is really fun and original. And, in a way, there was sort of I mean, there was a League of Legends aspect to the fact that you could play one map over and over and over again. It would be fun to do. So I don't want
sure.
to overly compare, but that part of it, it was very clever. It was very original, and in that one, it was all print magazines at the time,
Mm,
and Shiny had just done Messiah, and the press was not happy with that, and so I'm like, I I didn't do press tours myself personally, like, anymore at that point. I did that one. I said,
mm,
"I believe in this product so much. Please trust me." And they're like, "We just got burned." Now, back then, if you didn't get coverage ahead of time, it would come out 3 months after the product came because of the
mm,
magazine lead times. It wasn't like what you're doing.
sure.
And so if you didn't exist and we didn't get coverage, and
Oh,
the product, it was the highest Metacritic rated game of the year. And I had editors come back later and go, "I apologize, you were right."
it's got to be so
But it was
frustrating.
it was too late. It was
Yeah.
gone. Like we
Yeah.
we lost the opportunity. So, like, that was
Ah,
one, and I would say that I feel like Bard's Tale 4 was a little overlooked. I kind of understand why,
mm,
because it wasn't what they were expecting, and so
mm,
that wasn't aligned well, so I kinda get it. But when you get past that, when you get to the charm and the music, now I also think that we ended up getting too many puzzles in the game. That really wasn't the intent, but it kind of went that way. But it really was a charming game, and it had some. It was just well done, and so I think a little bit on that one. It was a bit of one of the things that's been interesting for me that I've discovered is that sometimes there are play patterns and things that people want, that you think, hey, let's streamline it,
mm,
or make it more logical, and they don't want that. And for example, like, if you're rolling up a whole team of characters before the game starts, you really don't know what is important to put your
Mm,
attributes and your points. You don't know where to allocate things, but that's what people like. So we thought, well, let's have them do one, and then
mhm,
like have the other one like 15 minutes later after you've learned a few things. Maybe it'll inform you for the next one. No,
mm.
no, I want to do them all right now. So we spaced it out, and that was not received well. So note to self: it's a play pattern people like.
Sure.
I remember when we did the bar to sell comedy. That was another lesson where, uh, like, if you're out there and you find an item
Mm.
and it's like a sword that's worse than the one you have, just we convert it to gold on the spot. Like, don't make them go all the way back, put it in their inventory, go sell it, come back to where they were,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. No, they like that. So, so even though it makes
Mm.
like logical sense, if it's a play pattern that people really enjoy managing that, then you have to be careful with it. So I'm not saying you never streamline anything, but you have to be very careful about it. So
Yeah.
I've learned some good lessons about that where, I thought I was being logical and making the unfun parts go away, but the part of that is the fun. So
Yeah. It's
uh,
weird, isn't it?
it is what it is.
Yeah. Then on that note, you've worked on so much. When does a project become personal to you? I mean, you've kind of established a lot of how this is like everything you love to do. So I get that. But I think when you've seen so much and you've been in the industry for a while now, how does a project you get close to it and you fall in love with it, especially when I feel you've seen every crevice, every angle, every genre? Like, when does it mean something to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, that answers something like you're over like decades and decades about when that kicks in. I mean, if it's a role playing game, it was personal. I can tell you right now. I mean, like
Mm,
full stop. I was D&D player, and that's what I was into. That's what we started the company with. That's what I started both companies with. So if it's a role playing game, it's personal.
mm,
Of course, now we're doing one at a time, so obviously that's sort of an easy answer.
sure.
And then there were some that where I was like I would shepherd them in because I thought they would do well. Now you look at the Moby game list. In fairness, some of them were distribution deals. Gremlin Software gave us stuff, or I actually there was a point, and I'll get back to answering the question
Yeah.
where I used to really enjoy where we'd have ECTS in London,
Mm,
and a lot of the European publishers they didn't have operations set up in the U.S. And so there'd just be just a hall of lines of tables set up showing games, and so everybody would be walking up and down the lines and seeing who could pick the gem and who could negotiate and convince the person if you picked the gym to go with you. And I used to love that. And so
mm,
we got Alone in the Dark. I got Eric Shahi's product with Delphine with Out of This World and that kind of stuff. Some of the Gremlin things I love. So I used to really enjoy that part of it. So now that isn't quite answering your question, but in terms of like a part of the process that I did enjoy
yeah.
from a passion perspective. But there were other things where like I don't know. You mentioned Mario, for example. We did, or Mavis Beacon was massive at the time.
Mm,
And I read somewhere that 50% of the people were buying it for their kids. And I went,
mm.
huh, hey, Nintendo, what do you think? Mario teaches typing. And
Mm.
so they allowed us to do it. And so like that became personal of mine because it was like, let's hope it works.
Yeah.
This was my idea, to make it work. So some of them were just I look kind of the intellectual exercise of like, am I on the right chord here? Or is this gonna be like you
Mm,
don't really know. I mean, look at is every Spielberg film a hit? No, and he knows a
mm,
lot. So there's an entertainment component that keeps it random enough that you're always even when you think like this is a slam dunk, yeah, a little bit worried. You never know what can happen. So
mhm.
it keeps you on your toes. So if they originated from me or they were role playing games, typically speaking, I'd have to think through different ones. But but certainly, but I am. I mean, I'm always involved in some way. I mean, I think early. I think it. I was in an interesting role in terms of people going. What the hell do I do? I
Mm,
mean, what do I do? Because the product people would go, well, he's kind of a business guy because I'm running a public company. I'm doing all these things. I don't want to be doing them, but I'm doing them.
yeah.
And then the business people would be like, well, he's really a product guy, so
Mm.
more than anything, because I would talk about product. So I was sort of in this in between those things. Um, but really, and what point was I trying to make here when I started? Uh, uh, um, no, in terms of how I operate, what I do. So, which was that the way I ran Interplay
Mm.
and an Exile is I always started off with a vision document, which is what are the tenets? What are the like? Is it 6 to 10 things that for why this product should exist and why anybody should care about it?
Mm.
So we'll put pickups aside. Like Descent comes through the door, we're like, oh, that we love it. A little
Yeah.
different, but in terms of like kicking something off, I don't care whether it's Fallout or Mario teaches typing, whatever. It didn't matter. So or Wasteland. So I would come up with the group or have them present a vision document, and then I would want examples of things. So like if
Mm.
somebody said this is gonna be the best comedy you ever read, I'm making this one up, and I'm like, great, give me an example of a joke. And if
Mm.
the joke was terrible, I'm like, well, you're probably not gonna be able to execute. If you're telling me it's a comedy and that's your best thing, we're probably not going to achieve that. And so
Mhm.
to me, it was like, okay, these are the reasons for its existence, and then to make sure, are we adhering to that thing that we promised ourselves and sometimes promised to the public at some point?
Mm.
Are we doing what we said we're doing? And that sounds like that'd be really easy, but it's not, because people kind of they deviate, they get caught up in their own verticals. It just happens. And
Mhm.
so I have to be hyper focused on the user experience, because the writers might be like, I got to focus on grammar right now.
Mm.
And of course they do, but they're not like, and I'm like, well, but the user's not, it's always making sure we're sort of adhering to those things. And
Sure.
some products are easier than others in terms of
Sure.
doing those things. But that to me, that's how I operated always, and I still today. It
Yeah.
is that original, those tenants. Are we sticking to them?
Mm.
And does it make sense? So
'Cause
that
it's so easy
that's
to get away from it when you especially get to, like, content building, and you can just go crazy with it. It's probably so easy just to go off that beaten path.
it happens every time. I mean, every single time. I mean, I remember, I don't know, who was it? I think it was Corey Balrog was talking about like keeping the vision on God of War, and he said the most helpful thing was that they did a book
Mm.
about God of War, and he would like use that book that Sony made in order to keep reinforcing what it is that they were building and making.
Wow.
And it is, and I think you'll probably hear it from most producers of
Sure.
these things.
Sure.
It's just human instinct. It's not like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody's not capable.
Mhm.
We just everybody gets caught up in their own thing, and then they lose what the big picture was of what we're doing.
Right. One last personal question before we start to get, like, a little bit more broad here
Yeah.
is about, what keeps you passionate? This is something that, I get this question a lot personally. That like, you make so much content, you're working on a game, like, how do you and I don't really ever have a good answer because 'cause I'm like, it kinda just comes naturally. Like, it'll come from the great stuff you play. It'll come from watching someone have a moment. It'll sometimes even come from the bad news. Like, oh, I'm angry. That I care. Like, this is passion. It manifests in so many different ways. Where it's just like a new source every day, I feel. But what keeps you as someone who's, you sound like you got kind of sucked into the business world, got away from the part you care deeply about in creating. What keeps you passionate through all these years of work in the games industry, especially when it's been a
Yeah.
little bit more of a bumpy ride as of late?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have to pull myself back from not getting too excited about the next product I already want to do and staying
Mm.
focused on what I'm finishing.
Mhm.
Like I started thinking about it, and because I'll be jotting down ideas for 4 or 5 years for what I want to do, and I start working myself into a frenzy for the next one, and I have to stop myself.
Sure.
I think to answer your question, a lot of people love to ask, when does your non compete run out with Microsoft? I'm
Mm.
like, years ago. I said, it's like, oh, so you don't have to do this anymore, and I haven't had to do this for a long time, and
Mm.
I don't know. I just think if you just love the craft of what you're doing, you don't want to stop. At least for me. Like
Mm.
I think about like I don't think Ridley Scott is sitting around going, if I just had enough money, I wouldn't have to make another film. the guy's like what 88 and still going at it. Clint
Yeah.
Eastwood's 90 years old and still going at it. Pretty sure they don't have to keep going at it. For me, I'm in the zone. I love it. I love what it represents,
Beautiful.
and all I see are things that can be done to improve what are that haven't been done yet.
Mm.
And so that keeps me going. And for me, I literally, it's 24 hours a day. I mean, I'll hear a conversation in a film and I'll like, "Yeah, I love the way they interrupt each other all the time. There's not enough interrupting in games. It might be like
Mhm.
that might be a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like something that was phrased a certain way and went, I haven't seen that in a game before where they phrased it, or some behavioral psychology thing that I read and went, we could really make the player feel like one of my favorite things I'll tell you, and this is absolutely true. I love when we launch and we watch people like yourself play the game. That is
Mm.
such a thrill because we worked on it so long. We want reactions from people. So when you're reacting and your
Mhm.
chat room is reacting on that day, it's like we shut the company down and all we do is watch like you or Co, and just we have a blast with it.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
we learn from it. And I can tell you that's a big highlight of what we always look forward to that day. And
Yeah.
so, not the single most driving thing, but I can tell you it's a big one where like we
Mhm.
don't. I would imagine like if you're a band, you get to go to a everybody got their lighters out, they're going to a great time. Like that energy must be awesome.
Right.
Streamers are our version of that energy that we
Mm.
get back, and we love when we put in situations that we know will be an agonizing choice for you, and just
Mm.
watching as you ponder like,
I have
oh
high
my god, what
expectations,
am I
sir.
going to do with this? I love that. Just watching your face as you think, oh my god, where's this
Yep.
going to go?
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's something we'll get into later, but you with Wasteland 3, I just can't wrap my damn head around it. I'm like, there is so much choice. It's like I call it choice paralysis in a positive way, might I add, but like just like God, there's so much, and I'm just like, oh, I got to replay this. Like, I don't know, I got to see how this goes the other way. Kind of like what you were talking about earlier about how you're absorbing so much content and you're thinking about like how you could utilize that for your own games. I'm sure as someone who makes RPGs, it becomes like doubly that excitement, but also maybe a little intimidating because you're like, well, this scene can go any which way I want because we're putting it in the player's hands, or that's what the player would ultimately want. I have some questions about the economy of the games industry as well for you. This is a interesting time where it feels like between funding, game sales, layoffs, consolidation, the push for AI tools, game prices, the economy of the games industry is in a point of flux. And I feel like since you've been a part of this since 1986, you would provide really fantastic perspective for where we're at.
1983.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. There you go. Perfect. So add 3 years to that.
Not
So
that not that I really want to purposely age myself, but whatever.
it further legitimizes your point, though, does it not? So some have taken an approach of concern. Like I talked to Mark Dara a bit about this very subject, and he was along the lines of like, yeah, I am a little bit worried. But some have also argued like, well, this is the industry regulating, and there's so many which ways we can pick at it. But I guess to keep it simple and we can expand from there, are you feeling concerned like others, or is this the industry regulating in your perspective with everything you're seeing change right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there have been different dynamics that came in. I mean, for a while with Embracer and all them, a tremendous amount of money came into the business, one that it couldn't support. So
Mm,
there's a part of it that is fixing itself from that. I mean, there's different components here. Now, I don't know if this is true. Okay, so I heard this, so I don't want to quote for sure, but somebody said if you go back like 4 years ago or so, there are still more people employed in the industry than there were back then, even after all the layoffs. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So don't. But
sure.
so if that's true, then then that speaks to a different certainly scenario if that is the case. And I didn't dive in and try to figure out if that was a true fact, but I thought, huh, interesting if true. I probably should look it up. Um, so um, I think that we are it's hard to predict because there are a lot of different things. So there was the money that came in, there's the amount of people that only play the same game year after year, and
Sure.
so the effect of that. and then we got the kind of the double A or the B, the Claude 33, and they
Mm,
didn't quite make it as with as little people as what I read, but they did make it for a lot less than a lot of other people. And I find that there's not a lot of room for products. It's just to the victor go the spoils at this point. Where like, if you're just like a if you're just a okay product and you're solid and you're not interesting and you're not ambitious, but you're solid, I
mm,
don't you're not going to do the numbers you used to, and it's going to become very binary. And
mm,
so, I mean, I can tell you very much with Clockwork, I've always said we have to be ambitious. I
mhm,
believe that people reward ambition. And Starflight, it was an ambitious title. I mean, no matter what, and people could complain about this or that, but it was ambitious. And so, for us, I think that you need to be ambitious if you want to be able to survive in this business. But yeah, you're going to have these AI tools coming along, which is going to empower smaller developers who are going to care less about what the press thinks about their use of them or any of the ethics involved with it. And so, what happens when a group of 15 does something that a group of 100 used to do? What does that
mm,
mean? And what
mm.
does it mean to me? So, I think like to me, that's the threat to AI. It's like what happens when they're doing something that's similar graphic scope, everything else. You know what? I like to think we'll do a better job because I got a lot more experience doing it. But what does that mean to the industry? So
Mm.
that hasn't even really hit yet from an inflection point because they're not going to care what people say about how dare you or whatever. And listen, what is it? There's a group on Spotify now where they have 1 million followers. You saw that it's an AI.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a matter of time before there's a number one hit that's AI. I mean, I see in Japan they go to concerts and watch avatars. I mean,
Yeah.
where are we going? I mean, I don't know. It is a little scary, and I
Sure.
can't really predict. I do worry about job loss on this, so I think that's absolutely a concern.
Mm,
And I don't know, at a certain level, I often, because people will say, well, what do what about the layoffs? What do you think about Game Pass pricing? What do you think about $80 price point? It's like, look, like, think of me as a director and I'm on an island making a film. And
mm,
all I got to do, I just got to do the best film I can do. I can't worry about the decisions on Mount Olympus that get made.
mhm,
I
mhm.
just, like there are people who have output deals with Netflix where they're like, hey, go. And they'll go deliver you Narcos or, whatever these great shows that we all love or Ozark. Um, they can't be like, what do you think about Netflix increasing their subscription price? Like they just
Mhm.
got to be doing their thing. And so we're just hyper focused. We got to make the
Yeah.
best product we can do. And that's all I can do. And what I'm not ignoring all those other things, but at a certain level, just, we got to cook on our product and really deliver. Um,
Sure.
yeah, if we make an unbelievable game and it's ambitious and it's this and it still fails, holy moly, that'll be a whole other conversation.
Mhm.
I don't think we're there. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
I think people who do good product and I think people, I think people don't give the audience enough respect for their intelligence sometimes for either what they'll figure out and whether
Mm,
they can feel like is this truly feel like there's some artisanship behind this, or is
mm,
this just feels like they were calling it in, like you
mm.
could just tell. and
Yeah.
and there's no calling it in. I mean, we are as passionate and we get in discussions about the best. So anyway, I don't want to make this about us in this particular point, but you get the idea. So
Yeah.
I just have to think. I'm on the island. I'm filming it. I give the same answer every time. That's all I could do. All these
Yeah.
things you're saying are absolutely true, but I can't do anything about those things.
Yeah, of course. Of
There's
course.
just like macroeconomics going on. There's a lot of different things, and
Mhm.
so yeah. Anyway, that's kind of my hot take on your
Yeah.
question.
Uh, on AI, that's something that has also been kind of a hot button topic in the industry of just the usage of these tools. Is it ethical? Is it not? There's been situations where like, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 comes out. Someone on Reddit posts like there's this signpost in the game that had AI generated imagery that was just kind of wrapping the signpost. And that was really the only thing people found. And they're like, does this really matter? There's
Right.
the Alters, which is like a smaller team at 11-bit studios, and they had some translations that got nabbed. You could
Yeah.
see like the prompt in it. And again, I think some of those critiques are, as someone who is very like much, I wouldn't say anti AI, but more like along the side of I think you have to be very careful with how you use it. If you're a small team that's trying to localize your game and get it out there, I'm not going to sit here and bust your chops for like you using a tool to get it to more players. Like, I think that's where some bad faith complaints come in. For you though, with the passion you've shown, I've seen so many developers from so many different corners be like, yeah, I actually think it's useful. I think it's the future. Is your team utilizing like AI tools now? I know Microsoft said that was sort of up to the studio. Is that something you guys have like embraced at all?
For certain things, but I'm
Mhm.
very keen to what are the ethical uses of it. Um, I am worried
Mhm.
about job loss, but we'll put that aside. I mean, listen, I actually used AI to save a job
Mm.
where we had a person who's been with the organization a long time, and they they're not as they used to be, but
Mhm.
they have a lot of experience. So I can tell when people start, well, maybe, and I'm like, hey, could we do something that help like organize this person better so that it isn't like put them out to pasture, and so
Mm.
that it keeps up track and organized better in a way that they used to be able to do on their own? Hey,
Mm.
I think that's a great use of AI. Like
Sure.
organizing is great. Like these games, they have, we're close to about the word count as the Bible, basically. And
Mm.
so that's a lot of data. No human can get it in its head. So would I like an LLM to be able to query? How many times did Prentice talk? How many times have we used this skill? Like there's some things that I would want to query the information to make sure
Yeah.
that. So I see that one. I know that like they were using it to help clean up some mocap data. Nobody wanted to do that. So there are. So I also, for inspiration, I mean, I used to go on deviant art, go to a museum, go whatever. I see stuff to be inspired by. I don't use it. In
Mm.
fact, we pay extra to our outside contractors because we have outside artwork done. Like you can't use AI. You're not stealing anybody's work. And they go,
Mm.
well, if it'd be AI, it would be cheaper. We don't care. So
Mm.
we pay the
Good
extra
on you
fee
guys.
not to do it. So when you're just
Nice.
stealing people's work, there's a problem for that. So like, can we use it for like mundane tasks that nobody wants to do so the human creativity can soar? Well, I think that's kind of cool. I don't think anybody wants to do some of these things. Do we really
Sure.
want it? Do we want humans going through checking for punctuation? I mean, I don't have it doing it right now, but like that would seem like I'd rather have those same people going, I have a great idea to make this scene far better. Like that, I'd rather have the minds thinking about the good stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so for me, I mean, like for example, like I'll tell you like one use where we work where everybody's happy about it, and which so like we like to do a lot of stuff you don't know until you're making the game exactly how people are reacting to it, and a lot of that happens towards the end. You don't get the totality of the experience until you're fully in it. Well, let's
Mm.
say I'm at the very end. Oh my god, I need a pickup line. Oh, well, this actor's not available. They're here, they're there, we're too close to it. So I haven't needed it yet, but we said, can we do a pickup line, but we pay you as if you did it. So
Mm.
you get the
Mm.
exact same thing, and then we get a pickup line that wouldn't have made it in there. They're like, great, no problem.
Mm.
Can't use it in another game. Can't use it in a
Mm.
sequel, nowhere else. Can't do a whole bunch of lines, but like so because
The blessing for that line
so we
specifically.
try to think
Yeah.
like, okay, is there an ethical way that if we wanted to change a line at the very end, but that has to get vetted by the voice actors, and if they're like,
Mhm.
hey, we're going to get paid anyway, we're cool with that. So like that might be a way where I think, well, that's a
Okay.
way of using it that I think would be a good way to use it, for example. So like
Sure.
those are the ways, but there's a bunch of bad ways that I'm not that I, we're not.
Yeah, no, you guys sound like you're using it responsibly, is what I would say. And you're keeping consideration for the originality of the craft of, making sure people get paid, checking with them, getting blessings, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
that's
appreciate
the
the
most
insight on that.
extreme case, by the way. I mean, like
Yeah.
everything else is more like mundane tasks. So I was trying to pick like the most
Yeah.
extreme sort of creative version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
No, fantastic insight. Because as someone who is cautious about that stuff, nothing you said to me at least was signaling any alarm bells. Um, let's dig a little bit more into your history a bit, right? Because a lot of your babies, right, like Fallout, Baldur's Gate, are back, and they're really the forefront of gaming in a lot of ways. And I want to know how you feel about them being grown up, finding new homes. We talked a bit about games you're playing, how you approach things. It sounds kind of like a scientist, right? You're tinkering, you're experimenting, you're watching the
Yeah.
lab rats interact. But if you have dove into, I know you've dove into Fallout, but like Baldur's Gate 3, like how do you feel about like where these franchises are at? Like when you first saw them, could you have ever expected this is where they'd all end up? And how they'd all end up,
Well,
really?
I mean, Fallout. I mean, no. I mean, forget it. I mean, that has transcended anything I would have ever dreamed of. I mean, where they just
Mhm.
picked up the third season on Amazon, 100 million people saw it.
Yeah.
Vault Boy's like, he's practically up there with Mickey Mouse, to me. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's amazing. And of course, I played Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, and um, so I'm super proud, in
Yeah.
terms of the Genesis. And what a lot of people don't know was that it was a sequel to Wasteland. People don't know the
Mm.
story behind that. I mean, that's why, like, it went from, it went from, it actually went from tunnels and trolls, and then we needed a system, mercenary spies and private eyes, and then that's how we got the skill-based system with Wasteland, and then that went to Fallout. But it actually started. I mean, like, Kaneko Leibowitz, Guardians of the Old Order, Brotherhood of Steel. We were actually working on it for a while, and about some
Mm.
months in, we had to pivot out of it. And people don't they forgot shadow claws were death claws. We did everything
Mm.
we could not to be sued by Electronic Arts to to not do too much. Even in Fallout, it was your life ends in the wasteland. So
Mhm.
I love that there's an origin story that I'm very proud of, and I learned a lot from Wasteland about working. Like, that was 4.5 years with like 6 writers, unheard of. I mean, that was during the day of Dr. J and Larry Bird go one on one, and one person did it. So the idea that
Mm.
we'd have a team of whatever 15 people for 4.5 years, I basically spent all my Bard's Tale royalties financing that product, because EA gave me like 60 grand. We're not going to cover it. And
Mm.
so I kind of threw all that into it. And then, so anyway, I love the kind of the backstory, and knowing how it's fun for me to know how it started off with that stupid little 140K disc, and kind of
Yeah.
the things that were like, hey, let's let them go be nonlinear and wander off and get killed by the Guardians early, and have them taunt the hell out of them the whole time, so that when they finally beat them, they're like, it feels good. That
Mhm.
kind of wasn't a thing at the time. I mean, they're like obvious now, but so there was a lot of stuff we did. And so that all turned into that. And then, the Fallout, just the juxtaposition they did with the innocence of the 50s and the music with the violins was just nailed
Yeah.
it. Nailed
Yeah.
it. So that it's just it's great. And
That had to have felt so good to just see it in good hands after all it had kind of been through. You guys, like, I think, hit home runs with the first couple, and then, unfortunately, business does its thing, and it
yeah,
ends in the hands of Bethesda, and they really transform it in a way that modernized it, but also just did it so responsibly with
they
Fallout.
they took it they took it to new heights. There's no question they took it to new heights.
Mm.
I'll tell you a quick funny story about that, which is,
Sure.
how how they ended up owning the name, which was that, because it was a license deal
Mm.
with Interplay, and they were, like 10 points or whatever. And so I had left the company. I'd started in exile, and I had a lot of employees. Like, I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid my vacation pay, my overtime pay. They're there, blah 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 blah. I'm like, guys, because I was like, the dad there basically,
Mhm.
and I'm like, there's nothing I could do.
Mm.
There's nothing. I'm sorry, but I'd hear it for years. Okay, on and on. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. So finally, and I'd always notice, I'd look at their filings, their public filings, and no matter what, they had like 25 grand in the bank or something. So I'm like, I know money's coming in. So where's it going? Why is there only 25 grand in the bank? This isn't making sense. So I finally said, okay, I'm going to jump in, and I grabbed. There was three. If you have someone has, if they're accredited, they've already been. I'm losing the legal term, but they're accredited debtors or whatever. It's not the right term, but basically, I said, okay, guys, they weren't. One was an employee, the other was like the leasing firm, and somebody said, give me the debt. Okay, they had written it all up. They're done. Okay,
Yeah.
give me the debt, and I will do everything. And I'm gonna get you guys. I'm gonna try to get you guys paid. And so, and you know what? I'll take a small fee just because I got to go do all the legal fees, do everything, take care. They're like, go for it. And so I filed an involuntary bankruptcy against the company, and since I had three accredited debtors, and I know this is the wrong term again. I didn't have to prove it. You don't have to go through the long version. So that put them in a position where they had to come up with $3 million. And the only way to do it was to sell Fallout to Bethesda.
Unbelievable.
And so when I was in business with Bethesda, I'm like, you owe me. And so it's kind of, so one, the good news is I got all of my employees, all of their back pay, 100% paid. I got the creditors paid with interest. So my fee was zero at the end of the day. And then Bethesda ended up owning the rights. And so that's actually how they ended up with the rights to it. Most people don't know that.
Wow.
So yeah, kind of a funny sidebar on that. And then, and then with Baldur's Gate, when I left Interplay, the first thing I did was I want to do a Baldur's Gate. I want to do Baldur's Gate. And Atari had it at the time, and Infogram Atari. It was like, I tried for a decade, and then it ended up at WotC. Both me and Fergus, by the way, we were both killing ourselves to get it. And after a decade plus, I just gave up. I knew that it could be huge, and I always used to say, you're sitting on something that's going to do at least $50 million worth of business. I go, in other companies, they have whole divisions that do 50 million. They don't just shut down for no reason. Why wouldn't you do this? And I couldn't get him to do it. And then finally, they did the deal with Lariat. And look, at perfect choice. So, perfect storm. And then they killed it. So I always knew that it would do fantastic. And the more time that passes, even the bigger it sells, because, the pent-up demand goes higher and higher. And we were all part of, I think that was, and then now we're starting to get into kind of the Kickstarter era, where I was pitching Wasteland, and I had at one point, I was going to work. I had Jason Anderson working with me, and Leonard and Tim's company was winding down, and they were going to work with me on a Wasteland sequel. I couldn't sell it. It was like, and I'm like, I used to be a publisher. Nobody hit me with product good pitches this good in terms of like, and this is after Bethesda's killing it with Fallout. So like, we know it works. I couldn't get it sold. That's why that Kickstarter was so critical. It was a lifesaver, because I could not get anything sold. And it was the fans that saved the day at the end of it. And that kind of, if you think about it, isometric role-playing games, they were, kind of down in the dumps at that time. But then, and then came, Larian came on with theirs about the same time. I mean, they've been doing it prior. They had a history of engine development, but still, I mean, they financed, and then they did the early access, and that got them going. And then, Fergus at Obsidian, they did with Pillars of Eternity. And so that kind of did a kind of a resurgence, which I think also, in some degree, kind of helped set the stage also for why Baldur's Gate 3 might work. So.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's
long answer to your question, but
no, we love the long answer. So you kind of knew with Baldur's Gate. That's interesting, because I think for a lot of people, you think it'd be the reverse, but that's a wonderful story there. I want to.
By the way, when I got the D&D license, I remember getting a call from Bruno at Infogram. I knew him pretty well, and they were doing, I think it was Asterisk. They were doing a lot of licensed product and that kind of stuff. It's a big character in France, and And I talk to them frequently, and he's like, Dungeons and Dragons? And I go, yeah. He goes, you just can't get away from the nicheware for nerds, can you? Just like berated me. It was hilarious. I'm like, whatever. So, I mean, So it was not seen as a popular decision. Hey, when we did
Mm,
Star Trek, remember the first one was 25th anniversary.
mhm,
That doesn't sound enticing, right? Oh,
mm.
25 years ago, Brian, you're nailing it. What a great franchise. One that's off the air and it's 25 years old. But I thought, you know what? So it's kind of funny.
I love that. I want to talk to you a little bit about Fallout as much as we can, of course,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
know you don't like to talk too much about, I guess, other people's art and whatnot. But I do think, as a founding father of Fallout, if you will,
sure.
your opinion is just so like I say as someone who's covered Fallout for the better part of 11 years now. It's just so interesting to see how people think about Fallout because to me a great example is just, as we're recording it this week, there was this trailer that came out for a Doom conversion mod. It's called Fallout Bakersfield, and it's this kind of boomer shooter recreation of the Necropolis section of Fallout 1. And it's just like, man, like you could just do so much with the license. And you always wonder what could or couldn't happen, what's been pitched and denied, that sort of thing. So I just always think it's interesting to hear what people think about Fallout, especially
Yeah,
someone who is there from the ground level.
yeah,
Um, so I just always like to theorize a bit and just wonder, like, if you were ever to, in a future world, in a
yeah,
hypothetical, if you were ever to make a new Fallout game
right.
or a Fallout like game, people love to talk setting because there's just so much still left to explore, right? When you think of the mainline series, we're only on the fourth one. Like there's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so many places to go. The TV show is adhering, closely to the classics and New Vegas staying West Coast. So we really have so much of the US and beyond to explore. But where would you set it? What would it be if you're comfortable talking about that sort of thing? Do you have any idea of what that kind of hypothetical Fallout game would be?
Well, I'll tell you why I'm going to avoid the answer.
Sure.
But I mean, first, to a certain degree, I mean, you look at what we were doing with the Wasteland series, and that
Hmm.
certainly speaks to my approach to the genre. It's my
Hmm.
favorite genre as a kid. I mean, whether it was, I go all the way back to Planet of the Apes, Canical, Leibowitz, later the Swan Song, but that was after Wasteland. But I don't know why I've loved that category, but the Road Warrior was the I can watch this movie 100 times. So
Hmm.
it is my favorite. Um, I think Wasteland 3 was like a little wackier than I probably would do again.
Hmm.
I'm more like The Road,
Hmm. Hmm.
Stalker. Like maybe it's my old age, but I gravitate towards the darkness of humanity and what that
Sure.
means. So as I think about post-apoc, my mind goes there. But I
Hmm.
don't, to say like I don't wouldn't want to say, well, here's what I would do with Fallout because it's unfair to start like if people go, oh, I love that. Let's say they love my answer, and now they're, hey, Bethesda, you should think about it. Oh, you should
Yeah.
bring Brian in. I don't want. That's not fair. They're
Mm.
doing a great job. Todd's doing a great job, and so for me to hypothesize what I would do might start an unfair conversation when they're doing a great job with the franchise.
Mm.
As an artist, of course, I would do something different. We all would. That's no big deal. But
Yeah.
I'd say that, like my efforts are on Wasteland. It's a weird disconnection too with Fallout. I mean, I feel proud and part of it, but at the same time, I went to the premiere and I'm
Mhm.
watching it, and it's not like you don't feel the same. Like if it had come out 1 year after the game, I'd have been
Mhm.
sitting in the theater with a different emotion than one where I'm separated by decades in a
Mhm.
way. And again, not proud and not unhappy, but it's
Mm.
a weird kind of disconnect. I think I said,
Mm.
I think even Josh Sawyer goes, well, it's, not my fault. It's not my franchise to comment on or something. And that's there's truth to that.
Yeah.
They've taken it somewhere else,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, maybe I imagine some authors probably have that way with their books, where like maybe a TV series or a movie series has taken it and they love it. It's not quite what they would have done, but
Mhm.
it is what it is. I mean, you hear George R. R. Martin say, "Well, I wouldn't have done Game of Thrones that way," but
Yeah.
they did their thing, and there was probably some great things they did. Maybe some were better, maybe some were worse. Who knows? It
Sure.
is what it
Sure.
is.
No, I totally understand and respect that answer. I like the consideration that you have for them and what they're doing there. So let's focus a bit on Wasteland then. Because I got a couple of questions. The first is really about the narrative design of that game. I just want to get into the In Exile brain on this one. I think it's one of the most magnificent RPGs I've ever played. I just find the choice and consequence for the just amount of it, skill checks, things you can miss. You guys really, so many games say we embraced it, but like God Almighty, I think it is one of the, I call it a spider web. I'm just like, it's always like, here's the point in the middle and it's out and then out again and out again, where it just feels like, oh, there's like 9 different ways this could go. Number one, you guys just gotta say, should be, if you're not, extremely proud of that game. I think on a narrative front, it is an achievement. But I struggle as a player to wrap my head around it. I really do. And I think maybe just, I will say game development's changed the way I think about games. I just, because now it's become both being a fan, but then also that, how the hell did they do this? And this is a game that I just can never wrap my brain around. So I just got to ask, like,
where do you
how,
put time travel in a game?
yeah. Well, that's what we're going to get to.
We just wanted to make my mind really hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, well, that's why when I cover Clockwork, I'm like, I know companies have sold themselves high before, but this is a team that can give you complexity on that level. Like, I have no doubt about it. Yeah. So how it made its way through the writing team, the design team, to the full game. I mean, are there stories you can share? Like, how was it modular where you could come in later and just like, okay, let's add this. Ooh, I think this would be good to do. Let's throw this in here. It just felt like there was such a long length of just adding to this game to get to that level of choice. But walk me through it. I'm just so curious how this was built.
Well, I think the thing that you'll find a little surprising is these games are so big and so complex that I don't think anybody in the entire company knows everything that's in it. Like,
it's a little scary.
you have to train the teams to think a certain way. What's acceptable, what's not, what are the other hooks we can draw into? And then there's a kind of these fluid conversations where like, oh, you put that in, wait a second, that we could pay that off and and later on. And it's just fluid argument. So you got to rely on the teams that is our North Star for reactivity, because a lot of people have different definitions. What's a role-playing game? And there are many definitions of what they are in different styles. For me, reactivity is like number one. Like to me, you're kind of crafting your own world and you have to pay it off. Otherwise, it becomes the magician's trick, where you're always like, yeah, you think you're picking your own card, but you're not. And you're like, oh, well, do you want 6 or do you want half a dozen? And it just ends up at the same place, and people know right away. And so again, so for me, and especially because I love edge cases, I love them. When people tell me some weird edge case, I get more excited than the main story sometimes, because I find that, let's say you go try some funny edge case and it works, and you're like, I can't believe they thought of that. If you do that 2 or 3 times in a row, we got you. Right. I mean, all the walls of immersion go away, because the opposite's true too. If every time you try something a little, it fails every single time, then it's like, this just feels like whatever. It doesn't feel like a world. And so to me, those little things are the lifeblood of a good role-playing game. And the thing is, and I've said this for many, many years, which is that ironically, most people who play these games, they really take the more righteous path. Like, and it's a funny thing because they're not real people. Like, I mean, one of the things I really wanted to focus on with Wasteland 3 as an example, you said, was let's give the player the ability to do some kind of heinous stuff, but for a bespoke reward that you know exactly what it is, and it's going to make the whole game easier. So like we had the Hoon family, and we had the laser rifle up on the mantle.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so like that's going to make the game easier, and nobody takes it. But so there are different moments. Same with the slaver. You know, you want to turn in the runaway slave, you can finally get into that last pod and get in there. Well, yeah, I want you to wrestle with the morality of doing that. And most people, they don't do it. Now, they're not real people, but you know, you feel it. And the other part is like the NPCs in your party, if you spend enough time with them, you very much care about their opinion. Not just because they'll leave, but when they start weighing in on why something's good or bad. You're like, it weighs on your own opinion of things about what you should do. And so I try to focus on those things, but you have to allow the player to be evil. Otherwise they can't be good.
Mm.
There's no, it's just, if all you have is like medium to good, then are you really being good if we only allow you to be good? No, you're not. You're just going through the motions in your own mind. So we have to spend a lot of time allowing you to do dastardly things so that one, and that's the perfect, and usually what happens, as you know, you're like, okay, now I'm going to do the evil playthrough. And it's fun because you're like, this isn't me. This isn't really me.
It's always
I'm just doing
playthrough
it for
too.
the
Yep,
enjoyment
always.
of the replay. And so to me, those are all kind of this, because in a way, role-playing games, they can be like big trolley car experiments in a way where I want you to wrestle with what you're dealing with and the gray morality of it. I mean, that's what people, not to keep bringing up Wasteland, but that was the thing I learned with the rabid dog, where the kid's like, where's my dog? Where's my dog? You stumble on the dog. You're kind of stuck down there and you kill the dog. And you're like, like there's no way to have it both ways. It's not possible. That was like, you didn't do that back then. So then the kid's mad. He starts shooting at you. You could have just walked off the map. Just walk away. Oh no, they want to return fire. And now you're going to return fire with a kid. And then the next thing you know, all his friends are showing up. And now you're in a firefight with a bunch of kids. Like, be an adult, walk off the map. But no, but you've got dragged into this hell that is of your own doing. You could have just walked away. Like, to me, that's what the beauty of our medium, which nothing else can do, pulls off. And so looking for those moments, to your point about what's the lens for which we bring those things into, we try to create those experiences. Yeah, we will have a plot and we will have an overall arc, but those individual moments to me are paramount, that we think about those things from that perspective.
Yeah, it's so funny because Wasteland 3 is that game that really unlocked this part of my brain where I went like, wow, they've really made it where you feel like this tornado just ripping through the wasteland. And when you're playing as an evil character, it is just bottomless in some way, as the same way because I think a lot of RPGs I've personally played, you can tell they designed the experience for like, okay, most people are going to play good, so we'll lean into that, have the most reactivity there. But I feel like you guys had that, as you mentioned, that equal consideration of the evil player and what happens when they do that, but also making it really fun. There's a lot of games that if I were to pick an example, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, maybe my favorite of all time, Knights of the Old Republic, where you can be dark side in that game. You can be really evil in that game, but it almost doesn't feel good, doesn't feel right, which is I think part of the intended experience, but you lose so much. But I feel like you guys with Wasteland, they really balanced out how much you gain with what you lose. Like you mentioned the rifle on the wall. It's like, you're going to get that rifle. You're going to have to mow down a whole family with it. But, it still feels great and rewarding as a player. And I think you guys really strike that balance super well compared to the competition out there.
I think what's important, okay, like we're not here to preach. We're not here to judge. Okay, number one, we're here to entertain, first off. And what matters is not what we think of your choices. It's what the people in the world think of your choices. That's what matters, not us. So we're not there to try to make, if you want to do it, we're not there to make you a better person or make judgment on your choices. That is not our job. We're here to entertain you and make sure you have a good time. If you choose that path, let's at least have the people in the world react accordingly. And so to me, that's number one. To me, it's entertain and it's educate. And when I mean educate, I mean, like, if you're in the Victorian times, you want to teach you what it was like weird things. Like, they really did hire people at funerals to cry for them. I mean, that was like a real thing. So I'm like, I love that. That's dark and weird, but that's in. So I found that super fascinating. Or people would stand in ponds to collect leeches in order to sell them. Like that was a leech collector was an occupation where they would crawl on your legs and you'd go sell them. So when I say education, I mean like that about a time or an era or a way of thinking, perhaps, that kind of stuff. So, but above all, entertain. We're not here to like preach you about anything.
Right on. Let's stick with Wasteland 3 a little bit, but also we're kind of transitioning to Clockwork here
Yeah.
because you guys built so much tech with Wasteland 3, such a phenomenally structured game. I always wondered if there was a period where, I mean, you've already spoken to just like we're a one game team right now. Is there ever a future where you guys use the Wasteland 3 stuff you built, or is it just like full speed ahead, Clockwork Revolution, and then whatever's next after that?
Um, yeah, I mean, we started Clockwork before Wasteland was done. I mean,
Oh wow.
Microsoft acquired us during the final stages of Wasteland, and to their credit, we ended up saying we could use some more time on this, and we financed it, even though
Hmm.
they weren't the publisher. Deep Silver was. So
Mm.
you know, and that it got a great Metacritic and allowed us to do some of the things. So I was thankful for that. But we had already, like, I wanted to work with Jason Anderson and Chad Morgan. I love the steampunk. Look, I loved I mean, I don't remember at the time. I don't remember if Dishonored was out, but Bioshock, all that stuff's great. I loved it, but they weren't really role playing games. So I thought, God, it's such a rich Victorian era. I found the Victorian era interesting for all the reasons I just told you. People loved Arcanum.
Yeah.
I know these guys. Let's do steampunk. And so we started before Wasteland 3 was done about, you know, well, what were the best parts of Arcanum that we wanted to do? What are the parts of the era that we wanted to do? And then, you know, time travel. I don't know what was wrong with us when we came up with that. Yeah, and then I think that, listen, I'm a competitive person,
Mhm.
and so like I wanted to show our writing chops. I wanted to show what we could do from a first or third person, from a 3D modeling perspective and a cinematics perspective. And because, you know, really during most my career, it's like I have a band. It's like, okay, but you don't get a bass player,
Mm.
okay, and you only get, and you only get like, MIDI for this. And so like I never had where I'm like, okay, you get the whole band. And so that's what
Mm.
Microsoft offered. And so it was
Mm.
a matter of, sort of showing that we could make that transition from what we
Mm.
were doing to what Clockwork is. And it was a hard transition. It's a whole other way of thinking.
Yeah.
As you know, with an isometric game, I can go in and make changes the last second. They can do this. Now, if we want to make changes, you got to touch a lot of different disciplines. 3D models could be 10,000. I mean, that character creation, I want to say that model was probably 30,000 plus just for that
Wow.
whole thing. I mean, that's
Wow.
unheard of before. And so I really wanted to, I want to up our game, what we can
Mm.
show, what we can do as a company without losing any of the things like you talked about that you loved
Right.
with Wasteland, which is all the spider webby reactivity stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm so keen to see is how you do that transition to the first person shooting and making it, I guess the term, I don't mean it like demeaning wise, but like more accessible where like more players are going to see and be like, oh, I'll play that. Where like isometric, I feel is kind of on that return right now where it's starting to really pop off. But managing to maintain that as a shooter while also keeping all of that choice and consequence. So was that this game always the plan after a company like Xbox invested in you? Because I imagine like without getting into the dollars and cents of it, you're kind of playing with house money maybe a little bit. You're like, okay, we can
Mhm.
kind of shuck and jive whichever way we want. Like, how do we want to do this? So was this always the plan? Maybe that's where the time travel came from. It's like, well, we could just really put a unique hook in there, right? So was that always the
No,
plan?
no, it was always the plan. In fact,
Mm.
it was a really funny process for me because we knew we wanted to do it, and we had, we still build the vision document like I talked about,
Mhm.
why the competition, why it hasn't been done for a while, how many steampunk conventions there are per year. You go to the Halloween store, they got a whole steampunk, you know,
Mm.
corner of the store. Like, it's clearly people love it. They're very passionate about it. We think it's cool. I love the black, the brass, the gears, the wet. We love all that stuff.
Sure.
Jules Verne, the Sherlock Holmes. So we loved everything about the media. And so I went to them and I'm like, okay, I want to pitch what we're going to do next.
Mm.
We don't need to hear it.
Wow.
What do you, just whatever. And so I'm like, now you got to remember, I'm coming from a world of having to, like, because I was a developer. I mean, when I was a publisher, I didn't have to do that, but people would pitch me, but whatever. But I was a developer for many years at an Exile, so I would go pitch. So to hear them go, yeah, whatever. So I'm like, okay, this is too weird. So finally, I went up to Microsoft. I said, I know you said that. I feel compelled. I have to do it. I can't just
built into you.
Not because I don't know. You could say we got 20 of them in development. I mean, I don't know. Just like I've got to take you through what we're doing, and we went through it, and Matt Booty goes, listen, I love it so much that I don't want to say anything because I'm afraid you'll over-index on my comments. I mean, right? I trust you.
That's a sign off.
And that was it. So so we knew what we wanted to do, and the quote pitch process was like, we trust you. I mean, they had a very kind of bespoke strategy about wanting to work with developers that had worked with the same team for a long time, which we had survived a long time, because survival, it takes a certain skill set in itself. And so they were like, listen, we trust you. And so and I think, and I can tell you for sure that listen, I'm very thankful of where I'm at and the opportunity, because as a creator, I think any creator would appreciate what do we all want? We want to be able to make what we want, how we want. So even when you had a publisher deal, you might be making how you want, but not the way you want. You're on a contract and you're got to do it a certain way, and there's no deviating. Whereas in reality, when you have a more fluid process, it's going to give you a better product, because we can say, that really wasn't working. We thought it was, but it doesn't feel good. Or, hey, that's feeling much better than we thought. Let's lean into that more. I mean, that fluidity about feeling things and changing. What almost every developer wants is to make the product they want in the way that they want. That it's not a lot of people that get that ability. And even me, it took me, kind of decades, because typically you might be doing development work for somebody and you might be making the product you want, but not the way you want, because of the contracts that give you less flexibility. So to me, this is kind of the perfect relationship for us. They really kind of, what the new term is, let us cook. Yeah, I mean, they're like, yeah, we trust what you're doing. And so that's been really refreshing and great.
Yeah, I mean, as someone pitching a game, that sounds really weird, is what I would say, like in a positive way, right? Like, that's unbelievable. So you'd say like working with Xbox has really enhanced what you and your team are doing?
Oh yeah, leaps and bounds. I mean, even things with just like, hey, here's how you can handle all your IT stuff. Here, all security. Here's how we can help you with QA. I mean, they did all this functionality and things that would have cost us millions and millions of dollars to make sure we had backup systems that have come through and saved our butt when things have broken and gone down. So yeah. No, they've been great, and these are the tools. And then we talked to all the other studios. Hey, how are you handling motion capture? And we'll compare. Like we're doing some things that they found innovative, and I see they found innovative, or like getting over to Unreal 5, that was not trivial. So what have the other people gone through? And we can have discussions with the other groups. So yeah, it's been wonderful not to, kind of be alone, I guess, in this process.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great to hear. To Clockwork Revolution, comparing it to Wasteland 3 again, you actually touched on it a little bit about how, with Wasteland 3 being isometric, you can kind of come in, maybe add something a little bit later down the process. Now with how much of a different game Clockwork is, and you still want to keep the permutations of choice and consequence, and now you have to animate everything. Have you found that to be a challenge, where it's like, man, we want to add this choice, but like, when do you make that decision of like, this is worth it? Is it always worth it? How does that decision making compare? Have you found it as challenging?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, we have 4 to 5 times more people when you got quest designers, level designers, and writers
Hmm.
helping do it. So
Hmm.
to do it with the same number of people, forget it. So there's more pods that are on top of this stuff. But you're right. I mean, because they're going to touch animation, they're going to touch motion capture, they're going to touch audio. It's not like, oh, I'll just drop this in and drop in a line, we're good to go.
Yeah.
It's much more complicated than that. But that can't stop us from doing what we're doing. It is paramount that we get that reactivity in.
Hmm.
And so the kind of that the other tricks that we play, like we have a gesture system. Like we don't have the time or budget to be like The Witcher, where we're going to motion capture every single thing in the world, because that would cut down on our ability. But we have, certainly for the key scenes, yeah, we do motion capture. You saw it in the trailer; it looks great,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's more. I mean, there's going to be plenty. It's not a problem. But we also have a wonderful gesture system, which is like if we're having basic conversations, it can look at the lines and then animate the gestures of the person. Surprise, their hands move up, they do this, they do that.
Mm.
And so we're able to automate some of that so that we can have the flexibility that you are just talking about now, so that it doesn't be like, well, we can't do that till we get people in the studio. So there's,
Yeah.
a trade-off, but I'm not, I would say that trade-off is worth it, that it isn't, especially because some of the gestures look great,
Hmm.
and it gives us the flexibility to do that. So we've had
Beautiful.
to change our pipeline for the way we do things by, again, number of people and automating some things that would have been prohibitive because of what you just talked about.
Mm. On that note, how long are you expecting Clockwork to be? I don't know if you've spoken about this, but I know that this answer can vary wildly because there's main content, side content,
Yeah.
replayability accounted for, but just how big should players expect this game to be?
Yeah. One thing I've discovered is every time we should make it like we think it should be this long, we're like off by double, and not in the other way. Like it seems like every single time it's like, you know, so look, I don't want like I know it's at least 20 hours, but
Mhm.
it could be a lot more. I mean, we gotta, like, no, it's not 100, okay, all right, but it's not short,
Mhm.
and forget replay permit, forget that. I'm not counting that. I'm talking about
Yeah,
a
because
real
then we're talking the
playthrough.
multi hundreds. We know how you guys rock.
Yeah, yeah. So um, our last, it's been, every time we turn around, it's been feeling a little bit longer than we thought,
Mm.
more and more and more each time. So we're trying to actually get a hand, we're trying to get a sense of that. So it's going to be in what I think is the solid range of what a good role playing should be. Without,
Mm.
I don't want to get too pinned down on a number because I don't want to be wrong, but
Yeah.
it's not going the other way. Okay, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
We always like, why do we do this to ourselves? How did this happen?
Mm.
But we can't help ourselves. We're, again, we're ambitious,
Sure.
we're competitive, we love the edge case, and then it just starts adding up, and there you go. Listen,
Yeah.
I can tell you that I was like, listen, can we please keep the word count on this to about 500,000? Can we just? It's just so much.
Mhm.
Here we are at 750, 100,000. It's like, we like, why? Why does this keep happening? Well, and then, of course, I can't simultaneously complain. More edge cases, cut the
Yeah.
words down. So,
Yeah.
it becomes one of those things. So
Sure.
it always seems to get bigger. And it's harder. You got more audio, you got more localization. I mean,
It balloons a little bit.
yeah, balloons. It balloons.
Well, I can say very excited to hear that. Um, and as we start to round off our conversation here a bit, I just want to know if there is one thing you could tease about Clockwork. Some fans don't know, or something you could just say straight up. But like, is there anything you'd like to put out there as a little nugget? Because I know you guys are like, when it's ready, right? That's kind of how the trailers
Yeah, yeah.
have rounded out. So I don't want to force anything out of you if you're not ready to talk. But is there anything you feel comfortable teasing about this game that fans don't know that they'd probably be excited about?
I think the one thing I would make, I mean, yeah, listen, kudos to Microsoft, get it right, let them cook. They're letting us do our thing. They're not making us give a date right now. And so great. And we're responsible citizens. We want to be good partners. We take I'm an entrepreneur, so I take the money. I don't know how to waste money. Like it's not even in
Mm,
my DNA. So
mm,
I'm hyper efficient everywhere I can. I'm just wired that way. So I'm
mm.
sensitive to that. And so it's not like, oh, house is money, we're going to go forever. I don't think that way at all. So it's really like getting the
Yeah.
product right. But to answer your question, I think one of the things that people are rightly the most skeptical to be is like they're like, I love the trailer. There's no way they're pulling off this time travel stuff with true reactivity. It's too much, and that it's going to be some kind of parlor trick, and it's not. Now we do have some rules around it that so in terms of that all makes sense within it. And I won't go too deep, other than to say that in our world, time travel is you can't go back further than when it was invented.
Mm,
So once it got invented, that's kind of the back, So there's so if it was literally like if I heard I can just go back to the dinosaurs and I can go back to the 15th century and the 10th century and do anything I
yeah.
wanted, yeah, I'd be like, that's impossible. That
Mm,
doesn't make sense. So now that still is a tremendous amount of reactivity because yeah, you go back and you there like we teased it in the first trailer. I mean, you did one thing. There was like that was a different world. You created a police state. If you'll remember
mhm,
in the first trailer,
mhm,
that's only one world state that's
mm,
completely different. There are other world states with like different characters, different quests, different everything. And it's
mm,
binary. You cannot have all three. You're going to get one of them. And when you go back, you may come back and like, this person doesn't know you anymore. This person is no longer alive. You've just changed
whoa.
this. I mean, you are, and then you are also making small changes where, you may go back and then now there's topiaries everywhere because of some stupid thing you do. So it's like there's the butterfly effect, which can be just visual in nature. And it's like,
Sure.
wow, so that when you play Clockwork and I'm playing it, let's say like your screens are not going to look like mine at the end of the game because of
Wow.
the things you do. And things are going to be very different based upon what you did in the past.
Mm,
So it absolutely is reactive from your time travel. And I think a lot of people, when they watch the trailer, went, yeah, even if they don't do it, I'll be happy. But I'm like, well, we're actually doing it in a very deep way. But but again, I get if it was completely open nature, that would be too much to manage. If I could
mm,
go, like I said, I'm going to Egypt. So there, it all works well, it all makes sense, and there's a lot of great reactivity from it. So I'd say that's
yeah,
the one thing I'd want people to know.
mm,
We hear you, and you'll be happy.
yeah. Oh, I have no doubts. I just want to be clear, I have 0 doubts. As I said earlier, I think people it just to me, I always say, if you say that to me about Clockwork, I'm like, you gotta go play Wasteland 3. You'll get it. Like, you'll just understand, oh, they can really just make things react and then react upon a reaction. So I'm tremendously excited for this game. Just cannot wait to see more. So as we round things out here, you've been making things since Demon's Forge on the Apple II. Had to look that one up. I'll be honest with you, but there's a lot of aspiring game developers in today's climate. And when I have the opportunity to have these chats, I always just like to kind of round them out with like someone's listening. Like, I'm a new game developer. So I'm just, when you talk, I'm like a sponge. I feel like this is a great opportunity for others who are listening out there to be like, I want to be the next Brian Fargo. What are these 3 things that you could pick at random that
Right.
you'd want to make sure any future developers hear from all you've learned, all you've seen? What are 3 things that future developers, aspiring game developers, you feel should hear?
Well, let's see. Well, I think one would be that okay, if you're a new developer, you're going to do something in some category. I don't know
Mhm,
whether it's a platformer, a role playing game, last man standing, whatever your genre. Um, you need to know everything that's out and has come before you,
Mm,
the pluses and the minuses. Because what a lot of people, I won't say that, I won't say a lot of people, but sometimes people just play Call of Duty. That's all they
mm,
ever did. And they're like, I want to make a game. That's not enough. Even if you want to make that kind of game, well, what did Battlefront do? What did Destiny do? Like you got to know everything about those things before you might think, oh, I got this great clever idea. Well, it's been done 5 times, or somebody tried it and it didn't work. And so I think to get away from the hyper focus of one thing, I used to tell people about in a similar way, and I'll keep answering the question, but
sure.
when somebody's applying for a job and they say, how do you get a job in the industry? I said, make the interview such that when I interview you, I think, oh my God, I don't want this person to be at my competitor down the street.
Mm,
Like that's how you get their attention. And how would you do that? If you could give me chapter and verse of every role playing game for the last decade and what was good and what was bad and what you experienced, even in ours, I didn't like you this and yours. I don't care. I'm not going to take it personal. Go through it. And if they have a solid grasp of everything and why it was good and why it was bad and it resonates to me, I want to hire that person.
mm,
That's more important than experience in the industry. Like
mm.
I love the young person who's like, this sucks. Like I want to hear from that guy or gal. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so the understanding of the genre. I would say that you really got to be on top of all the tools of creativity that are out there that are available because you're not going to have a big team, so you want your group of 5 or 10 to seem like 20, 30, 40, 50. There's a lot of tools that have come on, and whether it's speed tree or the asset stores or or all the other things, I mean, and there could be some AI thing that's an ethical thing that help,
Mhm.
that's heuristic learning that helps them with something that isn't an issue. Like you just got to understand all of the tools that are out there so you can maximize it and not just try to do it yourself with everything. And I guess if I would, I mean, somewhat related to the first one, is that really understand the play loops that people love in
Mm,
these games,
mm,
and um, and really ask yourself if you're doing them, because if you're
mm,
not hitting some of the critical play loops, then you're probably going to have a problem. And then ask yourself, how are we innovating this craft? What are we doing that's different? And you talk
mm.
about play loops, like what is it? What is it? Blueprints? Is that the right?
Yeah, yeah, that just
Like
came out earlier this year.
like that nailed this behavioral psychology play loop just perfect. I mean, just
Mhm,
perfect the way they loved it. And it's not super ambitious, but gosh darn, it's addicting as heck.
yeah.
And so there was some very smart psychology that went into that about him or I don't know him or her, I don't know who did who made that understanding the medium and what our
Mm,
medium is and what it's good and how to use those tools and how to use those whether they're psychological or otherwise. And so I think that uh, really asking yourself, yeah, again, it's the loops and ways. Are we innovating in some way that's going to make us special? Because there's no room for me too anymore. I mean, I think that's the biggest divide here. I mean, it's getting wider and wider and wider. There's so many choices. There's products that people don't even get to in their Steam library. You want me to go buy your game? I got 50 in my backlog.
yeah,
So we better.
yeah.
How are we going to get your attention? So and then I think that you know you're going to see a lot of uh, creator content coming down the pipe because of all these tools. Um, a lot of it's not going to be good, but there's going to be a lot of it. And I think a
Mm,
lot of it's going to be people making product for themselves or their family, which is probably not that great, but it's so highly personalized that it's infinitely entertaining for them.
mm,
And so I think there's going to be a whole slew of products, not going to be strong, but highly personalized that are a lot of fun for that family.
yeah.
They may make a Flappy Bird that looks like their dog. Great, who cares? They're down for a week for that. It's okay that it's
Mm,
not that great because it's their dog and their little brother is the voice narrator. I don't know what.
mm,
So I just think that's coming, and so um, uh, more that you need to stick out because of those
The
dynamics.
unique hook. Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal advice. Just an incredible chat, Brian. I just cannot thank you enough for your time. Like I mean it sincerely when I say I think you are one of the heroes of this industry. I think you just have a wonderful mind, and it's so great to see that after all this time you care so much, and just can't wait for Clockwork. Any final parting words? Anything you want to share before we get on out of here? I don't know if there. It's funny because like a lot of developers I've had the pleasure of interviewing are usually like X devs with YouTube channels. I'm like, huh. I don't know. Do you have anything you would plug? Anything that you would, as we sign off, that you throw out there for the audience?
No, I don't. I mean, look, I was more interested in just talking to you and sharing my thoughts. And we talk. I don't need to plug anything, or I'm
Sure.
just listen. I'm happy that I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm fortunate. I mean, not a lot of people have been doing it as long as me, and
Hmm.
and I'm clearly I'm still in the saddle, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm given opportunity with Microsoft that I haven't had before, and I love the people I'm working with. I mean, they're smart, they're passionate. I'm learning from them all the time. I mean, it's a real
Mm,
two-way street, so
beautiful.
it's all good.
Beautiful. Well, that makes me very happy to hear. Here's to many more years of that. And thank you, Brian, again for sitting down to talk with me, to share some of your knowledge on the industry. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay
All
sexy,
right.
stay active. Love you all.